Hola, soy William Yepes, Spanish teacher, middle school Spanish teacher. And here another episode to talk a little bit of the history of Hispanic and Latinx in the United States. To honor this month, and we're going to talk a little bit, super quick, little storyline that will give us a little bit of a glimpse, something to look for, to recognize other pieces of history that have not been explored that much or receiving that much. So last time we talked about the indigenous communities that were displaced or how borders were divided their land. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mexico independence and Texas. So think about that. The conquistadors explored all the Southwest from Florida up to Mississippi and the Grand Canyon, somewhere between the 1536 and the 1650, and exploring and taking everything they could take back to Spain during this period of time. But around 1718, there's already some pockets of settlers in Texas, especially around San Antonio. And by 1821, which is when Mexico declared their independence from Spain, so there's already 100 years that have passed, and in which we have been using the language. The settlers have been using Spanish language and their traditions embedded in this new evolving community. So Mexico decides to actively sort out and recruit settlers from the U.S. because this is a vast land that they wanted to bring people to help them make it more profitable. But one of the requirements it was not to bring in slaves. As Mexico declared their independence, very soon after they declared they were not an enslaved nation. So by 1830, they discovered that many of these settlements have been different, have been bring in some other groups. There are some documents like the contract from Stephen Austin with the Mexico government, who signed a contract buying some land and promising to bring around 500 families to settle over there. When the Mexican government discovered that the settlers have been coming with enslaved, so by 1830, the Mexican government creates a law forbidding U.S. immigration. Very interesting. Think about the parallel in times. And also making illegal for settlers who are already occupying this land to bring their slaves. In more rapidly, so now we understand why by 1836, Texas declared their own independence from Mexico, who's still fighting Spain and having some internal turmoils. And by 1845, Texas becomes a state of the United States, enslaved state, because they still that was part of becoming part of the union, that they wanted to remain with the profits and the labor they were getting out of the enslaved people. So many of the enslaved were looking for freedom. So we know the Underground Railroad went up to the north, but there is also not much exploring history, another path to freedom. There is a really interesting book called South to Freedom by Alice Gardner, who's been exploring that and discovering history in the South and how many Mexican laborers who came also helped enslaved people, advising them where to go and trek all the way down, because the Mexican government, as soon as the enslaved reached their land, they obtained their freedom. So that was another path to freedom. So it was very interesting to see how different ethnic and racial groups like the Hispanic laborers and enslaved collaborate to support each other. And it's also part of very important later on. I will discuss how these have other impacts and components with other pieces of the history that we share together. So I hope that you keep exploring and celebrating Hispanidad y Latinidad. Gracias. Adiós.